Hello viewers. There is this popular belief that grammar is very much essential to learn how to write in English, especially when it comes to speaking or writing. If you look at the coaching institutes in India, specifically those who are training to train them on English, you could see that they would stress a lot on grammar. They would ask the students to learn the rules, memorize the rules, and then they tell them that you can master English through grammar. But I strongly differ in this opinion. I don't think as a beginner grammar will be very much essential for you, okay, in terms of speaking and writing. What I believe strongly is grammar is a requirement. It is only a tool to correct yourself when you're making mistakes. But if you think by mastering the grammar rules, you'll be able to speak in English or write well in English, it's not true. It doesn't happen. Okay? So the more you depend on grammar rules, it's not going to work out. And this is my personal opinion. See, if you can look at people, okay, who are very good in English, like doctors or certain other professions, if you see lawyers especially, their language will be awesome. But do you know that they do not know grammar? Do you think all the lawyers and doctors, they know grammar rules inch by inch? It's not true, right? So they speak English without depending on grammar. So that is how you're supposed to learn English. And if you're a beginner, depending on grammar is not required. And that is what I believe, right? So for this, we need to look at some theories. So initially there was something called as grammar translation method, where people began to teach grammar rules especially. The students were asked to memorize every rule in grammar, and then they were given a lot of text, okay, and they were asked to translate the text from their mother tongue to the target language. It could be English or it could be German or any other language. So people believed that by involving in translation and mastering a lot of vocabulary items and grammar rules, we'll be able to develop the language. But this method did not work out after some time, because there was something really wrong with this method. Okay, just by memorizing the rules and trying to learn some vocabulary items and trying to translate them in different target languages, one cannot pick up the language, right? So they were looking for another method, where the audio-lingual method came into existence. So even I have been put under audio-lingual study. Okay, so what we do normally is we listen to some audios. Okay, in those days you would have listened to a lot of dialogues, conversation in your English classes. So you need to memorize those dialogue. For example, in the railway station, and there are some two passengers or the ticket person, the person who's selling the tickets and the person who's buying the tickets, they would get into some conversation, and it could be from 10 lines to 15 lines. So we need to kind of memorize the whole items, and then we need to repeat, or we need to enact this in the classroom before the students. So people believe that by listening to such dialogues and conversations, we'll be able to pick up the language. But the problem with this method was it did not work out because it was ready-made. Okay, so every scenario, I mean in real life, situation will not happen as we predict. Okay, they are very much unpredictable. So this method did not work out. Okay, but I'm not saying that all these methods are not good. See, every method has a limitation. You understand? That is the thing that we need to understand. Then came this direct method. In the direct method, what people did is they showed much importance on communication. So the students were encouraged to speak. You understand? Instead of memorizing grammar rules and other stuffs, they were encouraged to speak with whatever vocabulary items they were aware of. So by providing a lot of chances to them, the students were able to communicate. There could be a lot of problems even in this method, but comparing to the previous methods, this method was kind of good. Okay, and then slowly other methods came into existence, like communicative language teaching, cooperative language learning, Such methods, when they were introduced, it created a big revolution in the history of English language teaching. So what happened through communication and cooperative language learning methods are students were given more importance. Okay, instead of the teacher coming to class and delivering the speech and students simply listening to the teacher, now these methods encourage the students to speak. That is, the center of attraction were the students. Okay, they were the performers, and teacher was a listener. He was an observer. Teacher was merely there in the classroom to correct the students, to facilitate the activities. So that was his role. So this particular methodologies like communicative language teaching, cooperative language learning, these methods improved students' communication. They involved the students, and through this method a lot of communication was happening inside the classroom. Okay, and a lot of communication activities were introduced inside the classroom. What we have to understand is that throughout history, teachers have depended on various such methods. Okay, so we cannot ignore any of these methods, because at every point of time different methods have supported the teaching and learning process, and some of them have been very effective, okay, when it comes to teaching and learning. So we cannot eradicate all these methods. Instead of doing that, scholars, okay, in the field, they found out that by utilizing these methods for different purposes, we can acquire language effectively. So that is when they introduced this most general concept called as eclecticism. Eclecticism means combining different techniques or combining different methods in order to attain a goal. So eclecticism encouraged people to depend on different techniques. When we are trying to construct a monument or a building, we usually depend on different ideas from different, say for example, countries. We have this Roman architecture, and the British architecture is entirely different, and again the Egyptian architecture is totally different. So when we combine different ideas and when we borrow the techniques of different civilizations when constructing a building, so what we produce becomes a masterpiece. The same technique can be applicable for learning a language. So instead of relying on one particular method, when we are depending on different methods and when we are using different techniques to learn a language, it becomes very effective. So this is called as eclecticism. People believed in this, and nowadays you can see teachers using different kinds of strategies, okay, visual, whatever it is, okay, even audiolingual method is being used even in the classrooms nowadays. So these are certain techniques through which one can learn language. And what I'm trying to say here is you need not depend on any such methodology. The ultimate aim for us to minimize your grammar learning, especially in the beginning stage, and then pick up the grammar slowly once you are able to communicate effectively. When you want to improve your language as a beginner, don't depend on grammar. Okay, instead of that, try to communicate well, try to use the language. It doesn't matter if you're making mistakes, don't worry about it. Even if your grammatical construction is wrong, that's perfectly alright. You can correct it later. The first thing when it comes to speaking is you have to express your thoughts without fear. Okay, so don't be too conscious of the mistakes that you are making. You can correct it always later. Okay, so don't worry about that. So instead of that, keep your rules aside, try to speak out. Okay, that's the first thing that you have to do. And slowly, when you feel comfortable and when you're able to express your thoughts in a legible manner, you can slowly read the rules of the grammar. Okay, so grammar is essential at a later point of time. Okay, so then you can learn the rules little by little and start implementing those rules when you're trying to speak or write. So this is the only suggestions that I would like to convey through this video. Thank you very much.